Hello, welcome to No Stars TV, another episode. I'm your host, David Rice, and our other host, Nelson Flores.
Hello.
And today we have the director, writer, and editor of the movie Six Dynamic Laws of Success in Life, Love, and Money, Gregory Bain. Hello, Gregory.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Good to have you on. So we'll have Chris, our producer, in the back. Could you please roll the trailer to the movie?
What brings me here tonight is a story of theft, intrigue, betrayal, and the missing sum of $2 million. This gang of three, they robbed the bank, but their exit didn't go as planned. After two of the people were killed and one was pinched, that money has never been recovered.
You think he found it? The money? No. Then how he has the book?
Did you hear that, friend? That is the sound of opportunity knocking.
You ever seen $10,000?
A week after Milton's arrest, received a package in the mail.
We're going for a little trip. You play by my rules, you can keep it.
You see, Norma and Milton were together, and before Norma bought the farm, she created a way for Milton to get to this money in case something happened to her.
I don't follow.
She sent Milton a book that he later realized was a coded map to the said money.
You think that there's stolen money hidden in my house? Do I have the proud owner of 311 2nd Street?
Why, yes, you do.
You know, this could be a pleasant, all-expenses-paid trip with a fun-loving outlaw who just so happens to be pretty easy on the eyes. Instead, you're just this depressed lump of, oh, you threatened to kill my parents.
What was the book? Oh, you mean the title? 6 Dynamic Laws for Success in Life, Love, and Money. It was a self-help book from the 60s. It was a stupid book. Actually, it was a pretty good book. It kind of changed my life.
You. What the hell's going on around here?
All right, so that's a trailer, and that's a lot. Nelson, you want to start off, please, with some of the questions for Gregory?
Yeah, so Greg, actually tell us a little bit about yourself and tell me some cliches.
Oh, geez. Well, I live in Idaho and made that film in Idaho. Been here for a very long time. I actually went to film school in the early 90s in British Columbia, Vancouver Film School. And then for some reason, as opposed to going to where people make movies, I moved back to Idaho and just started making things here. So worked in documentaries and a lot as an editor. And then I made 2 feature documentaries of my own. And then realized, well, I got into this because I wanted to write and direct movies. I mean, I love the documentary space, but I felt the calling to come back and try and write something. So I came up with this 6 Dynamic Laws for Success, and got a tiny bit of money and went all in, made it. Cliches. I'm not quick on the draw this morning, so I might have to get back to you on that one.
That's all right. No, it says one thing that David and I were talking about. It's that it's like the script. David's is an author, and he really liked the script. And at the very end of the movie, it's talking about the cliches in the bar and the bartender, and
Yeah.
and David talking about there at the end. He's like, I kind of realized there at the end, like the entire movie is a cliche. Is that kind of without an intention? How did tell me the story behind the 6 Dynamic Laws for Success? How did you come up with that story?
I wanted to do something funny. I also really wanted to do something that felt noir and had a little bit of a heist component to it, but I didn't want to write the usual heist movie. I feel like we've seen a lot of every kind of movie ever. So I thought, wouldn't it be funny if it was sort of some missing money, but it all surrounds a code supposedly in a self-help book. But then the movie, I mean, it does. There's a lot of cliches in the self-help world, obviously. And so I thought I kind of structured the film in a way that not only was this book sort of what everything centered around, there's sort of two parallel timelines taking place. But I thought, what if the character actually on this journey, it's always the hero's journey of self-discovery. What if it was actual self-discovery through self-help? And
Right.
so for the whole time he's searching for this money, but he's also reading the book and gleaning little insights from the book. So yeah, and then the end scene, yeah, definitely it all culminates in that. It's also a little bit my kind of nod to one of my favorite movies, The Big Lebowski. And
Okay,
so yeah, that's
Well, that's the, to me, when I saw the film, and Nelson and I talked about this for quite a while, actually, there's a lot of flashbacks, right?
Mhm.
We're in the present, we're in the past, shot in black and white. It's seamless when the flashbacks occur. So if I'm the audience, it's hard to tell what's the present, what's the past, right? And,
right.
and is that guy dead already, or is he still alive? And then the self-help book, of course, which is in 6 chapters, I guess, and then has all these cliches in it that then the actors themselves are doing within the movie. So it's just a very clever screenplay, and the use of flashbacks was also very clever, and it's just seamless. And of course the music. So Nelson, I saw it, I guess, at least 3 times, if not 4. Nelson saw it same amount of times to catch a lot of those little things. So it's a kind of film you have to watch. You can't go get some popcorn and come back, because what you miss is really important in the script and in the movie. So well done with that. That was really good.
Thanks for saying that. I did. I worked hard. I was trying to really make it work on several different levels, but also, there's some little clever, hopefully. That seems like a cliche when I'm saying, but I think that there are some fun little tidbits that if you watch a couple of times, that the way that the story is integrated and sort of the paths that they take and cross.
I had to. The crossing paths for I almost had to go. I had to watch. Like I said, I watched it a few times, and the beauty of having Prime or any kind of video. You watch these things. You can go rewatch things over and over again, and rewind it and watch it again, rewind it and watch it again. And I like the scene. It's all filmed in noir, but then you kind of go into this Americana feel when Ulysses is a kid, and and then we have color there, and then we go and you see. I don't want to give away too much, actually.
Sure.
But what was that decision to make that difference there?
Well, because there are a couple of sequences that are very distinct in terms of their actual flashbacks, because there's sort of these 2 storylines that are happening. One happened in the past and completely informs the present day story that we're seeing, and the storylines sort of cross paths. But there's these couple sequences that are definitive sort of memory pieces. And I thought, well, I want to figure out a way to differentiate. And usually, in movies, they flash back. It's like sepia toned or black and white or something. I thought, well, I'll turn that on its head, and I'll make those really vivid color. And so that was sort of the not so scientific process behind that idea.
No, but I did. It looked great. I mean, just the saturation of colors looked really nice, and it just gave me that Americana feel, and I felt like it was. And again, there's really, I don't know when this was actually set, but it definitely gives me. I mean, it definitely made me feel back like that shot, like that scene was in the 50s or 60s somewhere,
Yeah. So I was going for it, and I was also trying to make it overall feel sort of timeless.
Yeah, well, that was the. I think the beauty part of the movie was that. And I was telling Nelson this. There was no TVs in it. We really didn't see We didn't see cell phones in it. Yeah. The cars were like from the early 80s, late 70s. The costumes, and where they spoke. So this noir thing weaves through the screenplay, through the film, but we can't place time. We can't lock in what decade this is, which is very clever because, like you just said, it makes it timeless. We don't know when this was shot.
Yeah. That was my hope, that someday down the road, some people like yourselves would discover the movie. and it wouldn't really matter. It just because it's sort of timeless looking. And I mean, part of that was definitely purposeful. I didn't want it to feel modern. It was very specific to not have cell phones and things like that in there of any era. Yeah, because I just wanted to be able to separate. I felt like the black and white in and of itself helped separate a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that everything else was playing into that, so we didn't have this really definitive demarcation of when does this happen.
Well, the cast as well. So, and these in the independent films, as you know, story is important. Everything's important, but the cast, is the cast believable? Do they fit the role? And that opening scene between Montgomery and Ulysses in that house, and his suit.
Hiya, friend. Are you the proud owner of 311 2nd Street? Abe Montgomery, at your service. Are you the owner?
For the moment, yeah.
Wonderful. I realize.
Do you have any idea what time it is?
Sir, I realize I may be catching you off guard.
Yeah, a little bit.
It seems like you were expecting somebody else and I startled you.
Well, I mean, sort of.
Well, I apologize. I apologize for the hour. I apologize for startling you, if I did indeed startle you. Anyway, back to the story. So this gang of 3, they robbed the bank. We've already established that. Somehow they were able to pretty much empty the vault, but their exit didn't go as planned. After young Mickey Newsom was killed, Milton and Norma split up with a plan to rendezvous at a safe house later. Norma escaped with the entire haul.
Okay, now that clip. Okay, so this is a very complicated movie. It goes back a lot, goes forth and back, right? And so to keep it all together, that explanation that Montgomery gives Ulysses in the beginning of the movie with your split screens, right? Talking about the robbery and the money was a great setup, because now the viewer has enough information to start the movie to know, hey, I got to pay attention here. And when I saw that, I watched it, I don't know, 6 or 7 times, the way you cut the screen, show the action as he narrates, man, that's spot on. It's really good stuff, Gregory.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm glad. I was trying hard to, I mean, it's hard to have a, because the whole opening, it was funny actually when we shot at Ross Partridge, who plays Milton Montgomery. He thought, when we got to set, he's like, I thought you were going to cut this 1-act play that starts the movie. And because it's a very long scene and he is mostly talking. Travis Swartz, who plays Ulysses, had hardly any lines in the entire scene. So, and it was a lot of information, but it was also to sort of set up tone and this sort of wacky world that we're about to sort of enter into. So I was trying to figure out, how do I get all that information across visually, audibly, and in a way that's not tedious and boring, because it's a lot. And so I'm glad you enjoyed it and hooked it in.
Well, Nelson, did you say, I mean, Nelson did more research than I did on the movie. So Gregory edited the movie, correct?
Yeah. So one thing, when you start out saying that you got a little bit of money and you're able to, put this together, and in our world, we're not, we have to wear different hats for different things every once in a while. Cause like I said, I mean, you've produced, directed, wrote, edited this.
Shot it too.
That's right. Cinematographer as well, and I was also looking at the cast where you have Sarah Lynch was one of the sisters, Sue, and there was also production designer and costume.
Yeah.
So, and then I saw the music, and I'm also a big believer in how music helps move the story, and I thought the music fit very well for noir. And was that and related to you? Was that your brother?
That's my brother, yeah.
So, I mean, that's one way to stretch your budget, I guess, right? To get people that have multiple talents. Can you tell me about them?
Yeah. It was definitely that. And then sort of taking off, I'm not a megalomaniac. I've done all of these jobs, and I thought, okay, I can take a lot of budget off the table with some sweat equity, and I'll just do these things. And I had a pretty specific idea about all those things anyway. But yeah, then we just had a lot of, I mean, as far as the cast, most of them, the lead cast, except for the Nicholas, the kid that plays Nicholas, I had written for them. I knew all of them. They were friends. And I thought, okay, these particular, I lucked out in my friendship circle. I think they all will fit these roles, or sort of wrote to their potential. And then, yeah, luckily a lot of people were able to sort of wear multiple hats and help along the way, which is, yeah, because we didn't have much money, so we had to really stretch a lot.
And is that one of the reasons why you edited it? Did you want to edit it though?
I
Or
did, yeah, I did. Well, that's my background actually as a
Yeah.
documentary editor. So sort of, it's kind of most in my wheelhouse. And yeah, I definitely wanted, because I knew it was going to be a film where it was very specific in terms of its rhythms, and it was. I just knew what I wanted, and I knew that it would probably save me time, definitely money, if I would just sit down and do it.
Well, we've talked about how, in fact, one of our interviewers said, one of our directors said that it's good to have an editor on the set when you're shooting, because then that individual can move moving faster. So you, as cinematographer and as editor, when you were shooting this movie, how long did it take? Because you already knew in your mind what you wanted to cut out or add or whatever. So how long did it take to shoot the movie because of your two skill sets?
We shot probably a total of 23, 25 days, but it was a little wonky because there was a lot of crew and a lot of cast with day jobs. So some days we would start in the afternoon and then go towards, midnight, 1 in the morning. So a lot of people felt it was a really long shoot, but it was actually, we ended up shooting probably maybe 10-hour days. But it just, the problem was that a lot of people had already worked 8 hours. So it was a little tiring, but for the most part, most of it went fairly quickly. It was a situation where I knew I wanted there's not, as you can tell, like a lot of movement in the camera. I wanted a lot of the action to take place in front of the camera. Basically just calling back to some noir as well as screwball comedies that I loved, where, like Arsenic and Old Lace, where you just get like stuff happening in front of the camera, which I love. Or films like Paper Moon, which is a huge inspiration for this. And so there wasn't a ton of really technical setups. I mean, it was mainly figuring out the lighting, or when we were faced with bare walls, how do we make those bare walls look not like bare walls? So it was a lot of time spent on lighting. But in terms of the actual, other than just trying to get as many takes as possible, just to like really, because again, not only the editing, but obviously the dialogue, since you watch it, there's a rhythm to it. And I just wanted to be able to get that. And which, sometimes was right off the bat, and sometimes just took a little while to get in there.
Yeah. So what was your favorite scene to film in this movie?
I think my favorite scene is when Ulysses finally meets the sisters, and he gets hit over the head, and sort of that ensuing sequence that takes place after that. And the ending of that scene is probably my absolute favorite. It's the one little bit that was actually not scripted. When Ulysses walks out and he says, "Goodbye, folks," and they all say bye. And I had not, that was Travis. He added that little, and that just made that scene. And every time we've shown it, it's kills every time. So
yeah, the way he went to go ask for them, like to get a towel or whatever, and they're all like trying to help him. Oh, you're going everywhere. That made me laugh. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
What was the most difficult scene to film?
Probably the end scene, actually, in the casino, because I had a friend that owns a casino, but it was 3 hours away. So I live in Idaho, and it was on the Oregon-Nevada border, about 3 hours away. So we had a kind of a late night right before that, and there was no way to really redo the schedule. We had to just go. So we tried to get extra sleep as much as we could, drove 3 hours there, and then essentially had about 6-7 hours before we had like drop dead. We had to drive back, or everybody's just going to be wasted. So it was pretty difficult because there was a lot of stuff, and it was a live casino. I couldn't really shut the place down, so there was stuff going on. I mean, luckily my friend owned it, and I had a lot of purchase in terms of what I could do and where I could tell people to be or not be. Yeah, it was super difficult, and everyone was very tired. I had to give a speech at the end of it just to make sure that they would stay for the rest of the movie, because that was about 9 days in, and
Oh man.
yeah.
Yeah. So you're kind of, speaking to us, you're kind of surprised that we found the movie, and even you kind of mentioned that. How did you get it distributed? I mean, how did you end up getting it on Prime?
Well, so I had been with my 2 documentaries are with Gravitas, so I'd sort of been oriented to the VOD space, and then I was looking. Somebody had offered me a deal on it, but it was really awful, and so I said no. And I was considering things to do just on my own, and then I found out about this company, Indie Rights, which is probably one of the best deals going in terms of just if you're doing straight VOD. They're pretty smart about where they put the movies and marketing movies. I mean, most of the onus is still upon you. So it's probably was like, how did you guys find out about the movie? So I mean, and they're put out to every major platform, and I decided to go ahead and go with them just to sort of get us in the pipeline of those. And then over the years I've just been trying to screen the film and talk about the film wherever I can, and continually make more work. So hopefully if somebody sees that, I can say, oh, go see this one. So I'm hoping that it has a long life at the end of the day. We'll see.
Your cast really deserves what you're doing. I mean, promoting this movie, it's a good movie. I really enjoyed it, but your cast was so professional. I mean, they were your friends, and yet, if you put a friend in a movie, sometimes their friend won't do the best job possible, right? Because they're your friend. But your cast, I didn't know they were your buddies. I thought you auditioned these people because they were just so perfect for the roles. And so I'm glad to have a director who's promoting the movie, because when I see actors of that caliber doing such a good job, that they should be getting more work. I mean, everyone there, the kid was great, the girl was great, the villain. I mean, the sisters, even the bartender, the guy in the cowboy hat who was driving the truck. It was just, everybody was placed perfectly.
Yeah,
I'm glad. I tried really hard. I mean, that was the one thing. Well, like I told them at the casino after a very long day, I said, the only disservice I can do to any of you is make a bad film. And so we tried really hard every step of the way, even though some days were tough and long and not paid well at all, to just make sure we got it, so that we could make something that would be an enjoyable, fun experience to watch, that hopefully is a little different from what the normal fare is out there, but in a very entertaining way, I hope. So
well, I liked it. I thought it was.
I like it, and like one thing I was telling David, like it's almost like it does get better the more you watch it, because there's things that you miss, and you go back and like, oh, let me go watch that scene again. Like I had to go. I don't want to give too much away, but the boots. So I noticed that the boots that they found somewhere, and then another person had boots on. So I was like, what? That can't be the same set of boots, and I had to go rewatch it. I'm like, hey, it's not. Okay.
It's good though. I'm glad it's making you rewatch and ask questions. That's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie, and usually, I mean, so far David has picked all the movies that we've done, so and they've all been very enjoyable, and so thank you for joining us and telling us about this quest of 6 Dynamic Laws for Success.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and I really appreciate that you've watched it and you enjoyed it, and enough to tell people about it. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on as a guest, and I'll read the books as soon as I can. It sounds like a great book to read.
Solid.
Before I jump in, so another thing I found is that y'all made that book, right? So somebody specifically made that book and those pages and everything, right?
The bartender, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So I told Nelson about the book. I said, when you think about this book, it's a horrible book. If you follow the advice in this book, you're going to wind up dead or in jail. This is all bad advice. And we see it in the film. If you follow the advice in this book, it's not going to work out for you. And so the bartender wrote the book. That's hilarious. Great.
Well, he made the book. He's a designer. He's a visual artist, and so but I wrote the insides, and he put together that cover, and it just nailed the sort of look. I mean, I read a bunch of self-help books when I was younger in high school and stuff, like Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is what really influenced sort of the core tenets of the book, which are kind of core tenets that you find in almost every self-help book. But but his name's Matt Wade. He played the bartender, and he designed the book and a lot of the props. So
it's great. It's great. That's good. Well, I'm anyway. I'm just still good to have you in the show. And Nelson and I talked about this movie a lot. And man, I hope more people see it because it's just entertaining and it's fun to watch a thinking film. And but it's good to have you in the show. And Nelson, you have any final thoughts on 6 Dynamic Laws for Success?
No, man. Thank you again, Gregory, for joining us. Much success to your future endeavors, and let's see if we can get some more people to watch this movie. Right?
All right. Yeah. Please.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us, and that's it for today. And until next week, talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
You.